It's the recap for Sunday, September 15th, 2024. I'm Daniel Montoya Jr. for General Effect Media. If we use a college football analogy, the first 2 weeks of September in marching band world are very similar to week 0 in college football. There are a few contests spread around, but primarily everyone's waiting for the second 2 weeks of September, or week 1 in college football. We just finished up the second weekend of September, and it was the first Bands of America competition, which tends to be one of the big 2 or 3 nationwide contests, along with U.S. bands and maybe tournament of bands. And that's not to belittle or talk down about any other circuit that runs marching band competitions. Just those seem to be the more nationally known, maybe the Power 2 or Power 3, again, using college football analogy. So this past weekend, we had the only time there is only really one regional going on in Bands of America for the year, as well as 2 drumline contests. So we're going to dig into the results of that Bands of America contest in Toledo, Ohio, and 2 drumline contests that took place in the great state of Texas. But before we get to all of that, be sure to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to General Effect Media on YouTube, and click that notification bell so you know when General Effect Media releases their newest video. As I mentioned, the first Bands of America Regional Championship, the Northwest Ohio Regional Championship, presented by Yamaha, took place in the Glass Bowl Stadium in Toledo, Ohio at the University of Toledo. It looks like they had 17 groups go to this contest, and if you know anything about Bands of America, then they take the top 12. So basically they were looking for 5 groups that just didn't quite cut it or advance to finals. So this contest took place later in the year in 2023 and was won by the Jenison Marching Band out of Michigan. So they got to go last as the defending champion. So instead of being in, I believe, for the first or second weekend of October, now we were in the second weekend of September. We had 17 groups. And in preliminary competition, overall, you can look at the class winners, the class champions, the captions, all of that online at, I believe it's marching.bandsofamerica.com or something like that, marching.music for all. It'll be somewhere down here. You had the Homestead High School Band from the state of Indiana, not California. So when you search, make sure you specify California versus Indiana. And Homestead took the music performance caption, getting first in both music individual and music ensemble. Those judges were Glenn Fugit and Darren Davis, both highly respected educators and judges throughout all of marching. In fact, I do believe both of these judges have judged or continue to judge WGI, DCI, and BOA. Then we get to visual performance with the judge Jay Turner and then Kim Kuhn, who I believe also might be judging all 3 of the major circuits, or at least have in the past. Homestead, again, taking both of those, winning the visual performance caption, individual and ensemble. So Homestead winning music and visual, both of the execution captions. Now again, this is prelims only. If we go into general effect, however, judged by Jarrett Lippman, now at Vandegrift High School, and Jerry Miller, formerly of one of the Frisco schools, Capel. Now he's a fine arts coordinator, if I remember correctly. In general effect music, Jenison took first in both subcaptions. So overall, they took first in general effect music. And in general effect visual, judged by Marie Japinski, Goshen High School out of Goshen, Indiana, who finished 4th overall in prelims, took home the visual general effect subcaption. However, when you put it all together and figure it all out, it looks like you had Jenison winning the overall general effect caption. So you had Homestead winning music and visual. You had Jenison winning general effect. Now, this is overall in prelims. This is not based on captions. And I know you're like, well, they don't award it that way, but it's important because, like a lawyer, I'm building my case. I'm taking you on a journey of statistics. So that's why I said you can look at the caption awards, but it's important to see that Homestead won both music and visual execution. Jenison won general effect overall in preliminaries. And when you look at the overall rank, Homestead took first place with the score of 78.550, and then Jenison took second place with the 77.250. So over a point difference between Homestead and Jenison. Another piece of context that's very important is Homestead performed third to last. Lance Cruz and then Jenison performed. So there was one band in between, so judges had as close to a direct comparison as you can have unless they played right next to each other. So that is important to say. So Homestead first, Jenison is second. a pretty significant distance of points between the two groups in prelims. Now, we get to finals. It was a little bit different. Now, if you know anything about how they seed the performance order for finals at a Bands of America competition, you know that bottom 6, meaning you scored in the bottom 6 overall, perform in the first 6 slots. And then the top 6, meaning you scored in the top 6 overall in prelims, perform in the bottom 6. So you can be first place in prelims and perform in the 7th slot or as late as the 12th slot. Well, it turns out, and it looks like, Homestead did in fact have to perform in the 7th slot, meaning that they were the highest ranking group from prelims, but they performed in the worst slot you could perform in finals. It depends on if you consider that a worst slot, because here's the thing, much like in prelims though, there was a band in between Homestead and Jennison. So the contest was between Homestead and Jennison. So honestly, it really didn't matter the performance order. Now, Jennison had performed last and Homestead had performed first in their respective 6. That might have been a different story. However, it was the same vantage point comparison that Homestead and Jennison had in prelims. So if we go and look at the results on there in music performance, this is different. Jennison took first overall, both from Jarrett Lippman and Jerry Miller. Remember, they were in general effect music in prelims. And who did they put in first in general effect music? Jennison. Now, I've judged BOA before. I'm a music judge when I judge BOA. I've done individual, ensemble, music, general effect. That's what I do. So I know what it's like going from execution to effect or effect to execution. Like, that's what you do. That's how the music judges work. And it is not considered bias at all. I don't want to use that word, but I know that if I put group A in first place in whatever caption, effect, individual, ensemble, I know that when I go upstairs or downstairs for finals, I already have that in my mind, like, well, they were the top group. And I'm not saying that because of that, they're automatically going to get first. I'm also not saying that it's harder for a group to beat them or it's harder to stay in first. It's when you put your own numbers down and you have your own vantage point and you think like, yeah, I was on the field and they were the best playing band. And then you go upstairs, you carry that with you, or you come downstairs. So it's not well, they already had it decided. It's not that they had a bias. It's none of those things. It's just natural the way the judges are. And the inverse can happen. Maybe you had that judge, that band, 12th place, last in prelims or last in finals, whatever, and then you have to judge them in a different caption. Do you keep them in there, in that slot? I don't know. It's real difficult. It's difficult because as trained judges, you want to give everyone a clean slate. But if you know this was the top group, or you know this was the last group, you carry that with you into finals when you change captions. So all that to say is Jerry Miller and Jarrett Lippman had Jennison in first in all of their captions all day long. So Jennison wins music performance. They had a 15.9, but if you look at Homestead, they had a 15.5. So Homestead was second in individual music, but they were fourth in ensemble music, which gave them third overall in music. So they went from first overall in music to third overall in music. Again, judges change, performances change, vantage point changes, all of those things, contest dynamics, but context, it's important to know that. We go to visual performance. Now, who won visual performance? Homestead won visual performance in prelims. Now, Kim Kuhn and Marie Japinski. Now, remember, Marie Japinski gave Goshen first in visual effect, and Kim Kuhn gave Homestead first. Well, in finals, both Kim Kuhn and Marie Japinski put Homestead first in visual performance. So first across the board. So now you have music and visual. They're tied. But who's going to decide it? Typically, it's that old general effect caption. So if we go to general effect music, this time Darren Davis and Glenn Fugit are on general effect music. Remember earlier they were on individual and ensemble and they gave Homestead first. In finals, Jennison got first in music by Darren Davis and Glenn Fugit. Homestead second for Darren Davis, third for Glenn Fugit, putting them in third overall in GE music. If we go to visual effect by John Turner, visual effect in prelims, Turner gave Homestead first, 15.5. In finals, Homestead first, 15.4. You put it all together, and Jennison wins general effect. Jennison wins general effect. However, you're saying to me, and if you don't follow BOA, this may sound like I don't understand how that happens. But if you do follow BOA, you understand this happens all the time. Jennison won 2 captions. General effect, the most powerful caption. and music, which some should say that be the most powerful caption. I don't know. Others would say, well, music effect is in general. Anyway. And then Homestead's got visual. So you think it's all over. You're like, oh, Jenison won again. They've defended their title. They're winning. However, if we look at the spreads in some of these sub-captions, or the judges, one just needs to go to visual individual. Kim Kuhn gave Homestead 15.6. You go to Jenison, 14.6. A whole point. And if you've followed the recap over the last year, you know that I talk about the power of a tenth. Spreads 0 to 3/10, comparable in the same neighborhood. 4 to 6 or 4 to 7 rather. I don't know. That's okay. You're close, but I don't really think so. Anything over 0.7, you're saying they were not playing the same game. And to Kim Kuhn in finals, she thought when it came to individual visual that Homestead was marching in a different galaxy compared to everybody else at that contest. Therefore, you put all those numbers together, do the funky math, and you end up with Homestead in first with a 77.3, Jenison in second with a 77.2. So some people like to say things like so-and-so called the contest. They only won because of so-and-so. They only lost because of so-and-so. There are chief judges at Bands of America contests and major contests. And the chief judge sometimes judges, but more often than not, don't judge. And they walk around, they look at the scores to check for any discrepancies or hiccups. For example, sometimes I've had the chief judge call me and go, "You're a little low." Okay, great. Thank you for letting me know. They don't tell you to change anything. They don't say, oh, by the way, everyone has this group in first, but you have them in second or third. Like, they don't do that. They don't influence it. They let you know how maybe some things are a little different in the neighborhoods, or your like, for example, there are two music general effect judges, and sometimes they'll go, y'all are way off from each other, but they won't tell you how to fix it, which they shouldn't. They just want you to know, like, and they will always say, you don't have to change anything. I just want you to be aware, as the chief judge, that there are some discrepancies. So take that information how you will, adjust if you would like. So the chief judge more than likely saw this and go, hey, blah, blah, blah. And if they presented that information to Kim Kuhn, more than likely Kim just said, I'm fine with it. That's what I want to go with. So that's how it is. So it does go through a quality check, if you will. The chief judge's job is to quality check that. But again, the judge don't have to change it. They can say, nope, I'm riding to die with that. Or I don't care. Whatever, just let them figure it out in finals. Or let the numbers be them as they may. Let the math. I don't know. So I don't necessarily believe in all that, like one judge calls it, only because it also goes through a chief judge. So all that being said, Homestead beats Jenison by over a point in prelims. Remember, it was a 78.55 to a 77.25 to only 0.1 in finals. I don't know. I wasn't there, obviously. I didn't judge it. I don't know how this all worked. But, to have over a point swing and it got really, really close, who knows? Who knows? Contest dynamics. We're dealing with 14 to 18-year-old kids. Anything can happen. The weather could have changed. Electronics could have been different. Soloists could have this. Like, all these things all together puts for fun dynamics. Like, if you're a band fan or you're a fan of scores and competitions, which I am, this was fun. This was fun because you get to look at it. You get to read the numbers. You get to read between the lines as what they say. Now, unless my information is incorrect and no one has corrected me, this is the first regional title for the Homestead band out of Indiana since 2019. Since 2019, pre-COVID. And it is also the first regional title under the new director at Homestead High School. So congratulations to the Homestead High School band out of Indiana. Now, if you are like me and you want more context, you're like, well, what does this mean? What does this mean for the end? Now, a lot of these bands, because they're in the Midwest, Grand Nationals is just another band contest to them. If you're in Texas, Oklahoma, Florida, Georgia, California, it's a huge endeavor, right? Like the bands who live in San Antonio and Austin-ish treat BOA San Antonio like a day trip. Carmel and Avon, I think they literally go to class before or after they perform in prelims at Grand Nationals, right? Like, to the Midwest, performing at Dayton WGI is nothing. Performing at Grand Nationals is nothing. Indy Super Regional, because they just drive there. They drive their yellow dogs, they play, and maybe they go home or whatever. So a lot of these bands will go to Grand Nationals. And you may be wondering, well, what does this mean? How does a band scoring at the University of Toledo on September 14th equal or what does it mean for the end? And I can't give you that information because this contest was a month later last year. So we're talking about a month earlier, but I can just give you the rankings of how these groups did last year in semifinals, because none of these groups made finals at Grand Nationals last year. Either they didn't go to Grand Nationals or they just did not advance past prelims or semifinals. So we mentioned the Homestead band won this contest. Last year they were 19th. They were 19th, so they did not advance to finals. The Carroll High School band out of Indiana placing 4th overall at this regional in finals, 24th at Grand Nationals 2023. The Plymouth Canton Educational Park Marching Band out of Canton, Michigan got 6th overall. 6th overall. They placed 29th at Grand Nationals, 29th at Grand Nationals semifinals. And the Miamisburg band out of Miamisburg, Ohio, finishing in 10th place overall in finals, finished 33rd in semifinals at Grand Nationals 2023. So just a little bit of context, a little bit of statistics to show you kind of how these groups did nationally when you take them all the way to the beginning/middle of November 2023. What does that mean? It means nothing. None of this could happen. All of these groups could have significantly different seasons. More than likely, they will. It's contest dynamics. The shows are different. The kids are different. The competition is different. How many groups are coming from Texas or Oklahoma or Florida or Georgia or California? Like, it's every year. You can't really say how things are going to go after a certain thing. I do believe in the ABCs, the ABCDs of marching band. Like, certain bands are always going to make finals. It's just the way it's going to be. Then it becomes who are the 4 to 6 to 8, depending on the year, who we don't know is going to make finals. So it'll be interesting to look back when we get to November to say, how does this show compare to how things ended up at the end? And plus, there's other BOA regionals coming up. So we get to see not only how does this factor into what happens at the end, but how does this even factor into next week? Not just BOAs, but ISMA or mid-states or anything else like that. Before we move on to the HEB Drumline Clinic and Contest, if you are interested in supporting General Effect Media, you can support one of two ways. Number one, you can go to the General Effect Media store and purchase any of our General Effect or General Effect the brand merch. You can get it after administrative fees. All profits are shared by our content creators, or you can donate on Ko-fi, ko-fi.com. Donate as little as you'd like to as much as you'd like. Again, after administrative fees, all profits are shared with all of the content creators. We thank you for your support. Taking place at Pennington Field, home of LD Bell and Trinity High School, the Hearst Euless Bedford Drumline Clinic and Contest. Boy, there was a lot of drumming going on. A lot of drumming. We started as early with Cleburne High School and finished up with Timber Creek High School. Now, the HEB Drumline Contest divides things into 5A Novice, 6A Novice, 5A Advanced, 6A Advanced. 4 different categories of drumlines that are competing. Colin McNutt was one of the judges. He has General Effect, Technique, and Music. And then Brian West, General Effect, Technique, and Music. If you're curious about the breakdown, General Effect is 20%, Technique is 40%, Music is 40%. And they total it all up. They figure out Best in Class, and then they figure out Caption Awards, which are always super fun because I don't subscribe to the drums are too loud that every Texas transplant likes to say when they come in. It's just a very uneducated, ignorant remark at this point. More than just being naive. Write better, mix better. It's just, that's the reality. Come at me. I don't care. I'm tired of people coming to my state, coming to the great state of Texas for our talent, our support, our instruments, our equipment, our stadiums, all of that. And then you complain and complain with tired, baseless complaints like, oh, the drums are too loud. That's all they're going to say. Teach better, write better, mix better. Again, come at me in the comments. All right, so 5A Novice. We had in first place Poteet High School, the Poteet Pirates. Look at that. Second place, we had the Fossil Ridge High School. Fossil Ridge, one of those names where like there's 3 or 4 or 5 possibly. This is the one outside of Dallas, Texas. And then in third place, Frisco Independence High School, 5A Novice. Yeah, fantastic. Poteet scoring an overall score of, again, these are drumline contests, 171. The second group, 170. Ooh, that was super close. And then the third group, 164. So pretty tight between the Poteet drumline and the Fossil Ridge drumline. How tight? Well, let's talk about Caption Awards. There were no cymbal lines in 5A Novice. Poteet won Best Bass Drums. Fossil Ridge won Best Timpton line, the tenors. Fossil Ridge won Best Pin. Independence won Best Snares. Poteet won, right? And they won Best Bass Drums. Fossil Ridge got second. They won Best Tenors and Best Pit. And then Independence got third, and they won Best Snare Line. So, contrary to popular belief, snare lines don't always win you championships. Everyone else has to contribute. We get to 6A Novice. And if you're not familiar with how we do 5A, our classifications here in Texas, 6A is the biggest class according to UIL, the University Interscholastic League. 5A, second biggest, 4A, 3A, 2A. And then 1A is basically a six-man football. If we go into 6A Novice, first place, the McKinney High School Band out of McKinney, Texas. McKinney High School Drumline. The James Martin High School out of Arlington, Texas was second. And then in third place, the Wiley East, the Weast High School Band out of, you guessed it, Wiley, Texas. How close was it? Well, we had McKinney score a 183. The second place group 179. The third place group 177. Pretty clear-cut contest on that one, not nearly as close as 5A Novice. And in 6A Novice, no cymbal lines there. McKinney getting first, taking the bass drums. James Martin getting second, taking the timp toms. And then McKinney, who won the contest, took front ensemble or pit and snare line. So McKinney winning 3 out of the 4 captions, not counting cymbals. We moved to 5A Advanced. This was the smallest of the categories here. There were only 4 groups. First place was the Aledo High School Band out of Aledo, Texas. Second place was Midlothian High School out of Midlothian, Texas. And then third was Wakeland High School out of, I'm assuming, Frisco, Texas. They're in Frisco. If we look at the scores, Aledo 183, just the same score that McKinney High School got. Though I'm certain the numbers, you get your numbers back, but I imagine they're comparable. You get to second, 179 for the Midlothian High School Percussion, and then 178, real close for Wakeland, in third place. How did captions go? No cymbal lines in 5A Advanced tier. Aledo, who got first, won Best Bass Drums. Wakeland, who got third, won Best Timp Toms and Best Pit. Aledo, who also got first, won Best Snare. So it was split 2 and 2. Notice I did not mention the second place group, Midlothian. It's like BOA. They got second place by being consistent, and some of the groups had other things. So they placed above Wakeland, even though they didn't win any captions at all. And then we get to 6A Advanced. Obviously, novice versus advanced means we've never taken our drums before. I've got a lot of freshmen and sophomores. We're just inexperienced compared to, that's what I assume, intermediate and advanced, or novice and advanced. And I think you get to decide. Though if you won novice last year, do you get to stay novice? I don't know. Do they got some crazy WGI type rules in this? I'd love to know. Let me know in the comment section down below. First place, Marcus High School. You kind of figure that's one of the drum lines that wins a lot everywhere, so it's not a surprise to hear that name in first. Forney High School, second place, Forney High School. Third place, Byron Nelson, the golfer. Marcus wins with a 189, which puts them at the highest score overall. Second was 185, which is the second highest score overall. And third, also 185. That's a tie. What happens? Ties are broken by comparing ordinals from all 6 columns. What that means is they say, all right, if we take out Marcus High School and we just say it was a Forney versus Byron Nelson contest, what are the place marks? Well, Colin Minook tied them in GE, but then he gave Byron Nelson first in technique, but they were tied overall in music. And then you go to Brian West, who tied them in GE, gave Forney the nod in technique, and then gave Forney the nod in music. I imagine basically Brian West is the reason, because you look at it and if there were 6 different captions, it looks like 1, 2, 3, half of them were tied, and 2 of them were in Colin's caption. So I think they performed right next to each other too. Look, Colin called, just give a little tenth, give a little half tenth. All right. When we get into the caption awards, hey, the first cymbals, Forney won cymbals. They placed second overall. Bass drums, Timber Creek. We didn't call out that name. 4th place overall. Best cymbal line. Good for them. Forney, best timp toms, finishing second overall. Byron Nelson, best pit, finishing 3rd overall. And Marcus, winning best snares, getting 1st overall. Snare lines win championships. I realize the contradiction, but just follow along with me. That's a different segment, different section. Sometimes I just say things. Now, before we get to the Thunder in the Hills Dripping Springs Percussion Invitational, if you like this kind of nerdy, in-depth kind of dive into the marching arts, be sure to click and subscribe at General Effect Media, the Substack. That's how we started. It's the written word. It's going to be a little bit more nerdy. It's going to talk about some other things, some editorials, some opinions, more facts and whatnot. So be sure to subscribe to that. That's how we started. If you like that stuff, also we let you know when new episodes drop on the YouTube channel. So click on that. It's a double win. It's a 2-for-1, if you will. And if you're more a fan of the social media, subscribe to our Instagram page run by the younger, cooler, hipper people at General Effect Media. Photos, videos, stories, memes, all of those things. Give it a click, give it a like, give it a subscribe. Just do it. Do it for me. Do it for your boy, Daniel Montoya Jr. for General Effect Media. Now, Dripping Springs, Texas, which is a suburb of Austin, Texas. It's not Austin, it's Dripping Springs, Texas, has hosted now what might be the preeminent Drumline contest invitational in the South Central Texas area. I think you could say the top 3 or 4 contests. You have the Lone Star Drum Contest and Marcus hosts the Plano Invitational that Plano hosts, Thunder in the Hills and HEB. I think those are like the 4, right? I'm going to be Austin area centric, and put Thunder in the Hills at 3rd right now with the HEB on the outside looking in. Contest schedule, huge. Another huge contest. We love our drums here in Texas. 10 a.m. was the first group, Manor High School. 9:30 p.m. was the last group, James Bowie High School. Almost 12 hours of chugs, of Radamacus, of lesson 25s. Forgive me, it's been a long time since I've drummed. 12 straight hours of wonderful, wonderful traditional grip and shameful, shameful matched grip. They have 4 different classes: intermediate small, intermediate large, advanced small, and advanced large. All right, so let's look at how this all came out. In intermediate small, they had a total of 7 groups. 8 groups were listed, but we could only find scores for 7 of the groups. In first, you had Lockhart High School out of Lockhart, Texas. Second place, Wimberley High School out of Wimberley, Texas. And in third, Cedar Creek High School out of Bastrop, Texas. All of these suburbs of larger cities, the Austin, San Antonio area. Congratulations on the intermediate small. We get to intermediate large, and boy howdy, there were 16 groups in that contest. They started at 12:15 and ended at 4:30. It was like a Bands of America of drums, the drums of America. So you had a huge range of people giving out scores. Like it was wild. And if you're wondering who the judges were, Ray Ulibarri of Ronald Reagan High School, WGI, BOA DCI, Omar Carmenates. We're going to say Omar Carmenates. Forgive me, Omar. Man, for some reason I take my glasses off. He was judging. BOA, DCI, WGI. Evan Blackard, field analysis. Oh, those first 2 were ensemble. And then Evan Blackard was field analysis. And then A Vite, field analysis. I'm getting old. We're going to blame my mispronunciation on being old. Those are the 4 judges. Heavy hitters. Big names. Some of them I don't recognize, like I don't know very well, like the last 2, but I've heard their names enough to know they're percussion people. I just don't know where they're from or what they do. But Matt Ehlers, who's the organizer and percussion director at Dripping Springs, doesn't mess around. So if they're there and he vouches for them, they know what's up. All right, so we had intermediate large, 17 groups. In first place, Louis D. Brandeis High School. It's Lewis, I'm sure, out of San Antonio, Texas. First place out of 17. That's amazing. In second place, you had Sandra Day O'Connor High School out of Helotes, Texas, which is a suburb of San Antonio, Texas. Sandra Day O'Connor, Brandeis, O'Connor. Those are both Supreme Court justice names, because in the North Side Independent School District of San Antonio, all the schools are named after Supreme Court justices. And in third place, William Howard Taft High School out of San Antonio, Texas, San Antonio area. So San Antonio takeover of intermediate large, suburb takeover of intermediate small. We get into advanced small, which was similar to HEB, the smallest category. There's only 4 groups in there. Rouse High School out of Leander, Texas, North Austin suburb, gets first. Tomball High School out of Tomball, Texas, Houston suburb, gets second. McCallum High School in the great city of Austin city limits, third place. Third place for them. Fantastic. Now, there were caption awards, but all I could find for captions were for advanced categories. So forgive me, intermediate large and intermediate small. I don't have that information, but if you'd like to share it in the comment section down below, please do that. Tomball High School wins snares. Tomball High School wins timp-toms. There were no cymbals, and Rouse High School wins bass drums and pit front ensemble. So in this case, snare drums don't win drumline contest, but I'm sure I'll contradict myself in just a moment when we get to advanced large. Advanced large had 8 groups, and you're wondering, well, what are some of these groups that are advanced large? I will tell you. Hendrickson High School, Grand National Finalist. Leander High School, former Grand National Finalist. Winston Churchill, former Grand National Finalist. Hebron High School, former Grand National Finalist. Cedar Park, former Grand National Finalist. Vandegrift, Grand National Finalist. Vista Ridge, Grand National Finalist. James Bowie High School, Grand National Finals. Yeah, find me a deeper drumline show competition taking place on September 14th around the country. You can't do it. Or if you can, let me know in the comment section down below. So who won? Vandegrift won. Vandegrift got first place. And before you go, of course they did. Just wait. Second place, Hebron High School. This is like reading the UIL state marching contest over the last 2 years. And then third place, Vista Ridge High School. So remember, Vandegrift is in Austin proper. Congrats to the Violet Crown. Hebron High School is DFW area. Vista Ridge, Leander High School. Leander, Texas. Suburb, Leander ISD. 2 Leander schools. It was the LISD sweep. Leander, Louisville, Leander ISD. Hebron won pit. Good for them. Vista Ridge won cymbals. Good for them. Hebron won bass drums. Good for them. Vandegrift won tenors and snares. Snare lines win drumline. Now, I've never gone this deep into a drumline contest, but I was very curious. And the website's fantastic because they post all of the previous winners as far back as 2009, because that's when this contest started. And they started what they call the McDavitt Drum Grand Champion. So they crown a grand champion. They've done it 2022, 2023. This would be 2024. And Vandegrift was the grand champion. They won the grand champion for the first time ever. They've won their division multiple times. But the last 2 years in 2023 and 2022, Capel High School out of Coppell, Texas, was the large division champ as well as the grand champion. So this is the first time an Austin school or Austin area or Central Texas school has won the McDavitt Drum Grand Champion. Now, I said just because you go like, of course Vandegrift win, they always win. You don't know that. I'm going to prove to you that you're kind of right, but not really. As I mentioned, Capel, they were 2-time in a row. They repeated grand champion, 2-time class champion. Rouse is a 3-time class champion. And when I say class champion, that's in their class. They won in 23 and 24. They are on a 2-game winning streak, 2-contest winning streak. As I mentioned, Vandy, 1 time they won grand champion. 5 times they've won their class, 2012, 16, 17, 19, and then 24. So this is the first time they've won since pre-COVID. You heard me mention William Howard Taft getting 3rd place in that incredibly huge intermediate small division. They are a 3-time champion, winning in 22 and 23. They had 2 in a row. Good for them. McCallum. Now, here's a little fun trivia for you. Matt Ehlers, who runs Thunder in the Hills, who is the percussion director at Dripping Springs High School, where the contest is held, is formerly McCallum High School. And McCallum is a 5-time class drumline champion. I don't know how many of those he's responsible for, but I would imagine at least 3, if not 4 of those. Round Rock High School is a 3-time champion, 3-peating in 2010, 2011, and 2012. And then another school of note, Cedar Ridge High School, who's also in the Round Rock ISD. They might be an Austin mailing address. If they are, great for them. If they're not, it's Round Rock, and that's okay too. Cedar Ridge, 3-time champion in a row. 2013, 2014, and 2015. That's right. The school district of Round Rock ISD maintained the large division championship of the Thunder in the Hills Dripping Springs Percussion Invitational from the year 2010 to 2015. And I don't think Cedar Ridge has attended since then. I could be wrong. Doesn't really matter. Maybe they said Round Rock, you can't show up anymore. Cedar Ridge can't show up anymore. At some point they may say Vandegrift, you can't show up anymore. McCallum, you can't. Pretty soon, look, we drum pretty good here in Texas. That's not a secret. That's not a secret. I like drums. And if you made it this far or you didn't skip from the beginning, you also know that I love traditional grip. And there was a very, very funny post by a band director who took his percussion section to this contest. I don't believe they won. I'm not sure that they won a caption or medaled. But he said very, very funny on his post that he should get extra points for playing traditional grip. And you know what? I agree. I'm not saying you should get less points for playing match grip, but I will say that you should get more points. Just for you out there and you pop out traditional grip, you already got, it depends how you judge things, if it's tenths or if it's points. I don't know. Let's go with tenths. If I was doing that in that kind of contest, 0.3. 0.3. You started at 0.3. That's enough. That's enough. But that's why I don't try to judge drumline contests. I get to judge the pit when I judge drumline contests. So that does it for this episode of the recap. Things are going to get real heavy next week because next week begins the official week 1 start of college football / marching band competitions. If we go just off of BOA contests alone, Las Cruces, New Mexico, which is basically Mexico, and West Texas and East New Mexico. It's going to be an El Paso showdown, basically. McAllen, Texas. We basically have a Bands of America show right here and then a Bands of America show right here. Like the two corners of Texas. It'd be amazing if they put another one up here. Like there's 4. Anyway, regardless. You have Las Cruces, New Mexico, which is basically El Paso, Texas, which is basically Mexico. McAllen, Texas, which is also basically Mexico. And if you think I'm being about it, have you been to El Paso? Have you been to McAllen? You literally can see Mexico right there. My phone, not me alone. Our phones think we're in Mexico when we go over there. Also, I'm Mexican, so I can say stuff like that. Obetz, Ohio at the Fortress. That's also taking place. So Ohio is taking place. Toledo is week 1. Obetz, Ohio is week 2. Look at that. And then guess what? If you are holding this up for not only representing the great state of Texas, but San Marcos, because of Texas State Bobcats, Lockbush Gerd, we have a show in Las Cruces, New Mexico. We have a show in McAllen, Texas. We have a show in Round Rock, Texas. Technically, I think the Kelly Reeves Athletic Conference, whatever center, is in Austin. So I think it's a misnomer to call it the Austin Regional or Round Rock Regional, whatever. It's at the Crack, K-R-A-C, the Battle at the Crack. So yeah, you get bam, bam, bam. You get 3 Texas BOAs plus Obetz, Ohio, but no name is as cool as the Fortress. I judged that one a few years ago. It is indeed a fortress of shipping containers. So that does it for today's episode of the recap. Let us know what you think about all this. Give it in the comment section down below. And if you want us to discuss your marching band contest, and here's the thing, if I can find recaps, I will talk about it. If I can find results, and not just from like a Texas Band Forum or Horn Rank or anything like that, like I need undisputed, legitimate recaps so that I can just speak with correct information, send it to us. Send it to us. Let us know in the comment section down below. Put a link. We'll talk about it. I'll dig into it. And no, you don't have to have, a Grand National finalist at your band show. No, I don't care. I just want to talk about band because I think band, and I use the band to encompass drum corps, marching band, WGI, etc. Band deserves the kind of coverage that college football gets because it's pretty exciting. I'm an older gentleman and I'm still super nerdy about it. I have friends that are younger than me, same age, a little bit older. They were in band, their kids were in band, and they're still all about it. All right? I would wager marching band is every bit as fanatic as college marching band, college football rather, college marching band too. So I want to talk about band. I like talking about band. I have a YouTube channel devoted to talking about band and shoes. You can follow that one if you'd like. But regardless, so the recap, we'll be back next Sunday to wrap up everything that happened in this next week. If there's any drum corps announcements, if there's any marching band or drumline shows, let me know in the comment section down below. I'd love to talk about it. Woo! Band season's here. We did it, everybody. Oh, and today the University of Texas Longhorns are ranked number 1 by the AP. See you next week.